So I think I have told this story a couple of times before, so if you've heard it, I'm sorry. But if you haven't, you'll love it, and I'll try not to cry. Quite a few years ago now, I would say, and I don't know how many, but I was on the mounted unit for the Sheriff's Department here as a volunteer, and we did a Black Stallion project with the book back then, and I'm going to say it was probably at least 10 years ago, maybe even more, I'm not sure. But anyway, Sonny was my Tennessee Walker who passed away in 21, and he was absolutely amazing horse and so kind and loved children. And I was chosen to go to the school that had some disabled children, both mentally and physically disabled children. And it was a very small classroom of students. I would say it was probably only maybe 5 or 6 students altogether. And when they came out, I had the horse trailer parked, and I was in my green, tough Sheriff's Department looking uniform, like I'm tough, right? And yes, right. And I've got Sonny and the book, and I'm supposed to talk about the book, and then the kids get to meet the horse, and then they get the book. So I'm standing there, and the teacher comes out with this group of students, and she is in the lead with the kids, and then she has another teacher in the back, and they're bringing this small group out towards Sonny. And there is a young child in a wheelchair with her who is screaming. And I don't mean screaming like yelling or crying. I mean just a scream, like you would if you were in fear. Mm-hmm. But over and over and over again, this child was screaming. And when they arrived at me and Sonny, my horse, the teacher looked at me, the lead teacher looked at me and said, "I'm so sorry." And she was not a horse person as such, and she looked a little concerned about, is the screaming, did they tell you about the screaming? And I said, no, it's okay, it's fine, Sonny's fine, he's fine. And so Sonny immediately, with no prompting from me, dropped his head into the lap of the little boy in the wheelchair. And actually, I'd love to be able to find out who this little boy is, and I think he's probably a great rider right now. But Sonny dropped his head down into, lowered right down to him, even with the screaming, and the teacher looked surprised that he wasn't, someone screaming. Yeah. And so I took the little boy's hands and put them on Sonny's face, and I just started taking his hand up and down Sonny's face, and then he stopped screaming. And I looked at the teacher who was standing next to him, and there were tears pouring down her face. And I looked at her in my green Sheriff's Department tough uniform, and I got tears pouring down my face, right? And she looks at me and she said, "He hasn't stopped screaming since he was able to make an audible noise unless he's asleep. Not at home, not in the classroom, not any time unless he was asleep, since he could make a sound. So all his life, he screamed." And he just stopped. He went completely silent. He just started running his hands down Sonny's face. And I was just bawling by this time, and Sonny was just like, "I'm your best friend. How can I get closer to you?" Because that's how Sonny was. And this little boy was just absolutely precious. And the teacher just looked at me, and she couldn't speak. She said, "Thank you." Yeah. And she said, "I'm going to tell his parents to find some horses." "Please do this." "Yes, please." And all the way back to the classroom after they left, he was trying to turn around and climb up in his wheelchair to see Sonny. And all the way back to the classroom, he didn't make a sound. Wow. And the teachers were just... And what made me think about wanting to share this, and I've shared it before, but I know we have a lot of new listeners all the time, and different podcasts and TV and everything, is because programs like yours are that life-changing. And I don't know what happened to that little boy, but I'm going to say he went on to be just an amazing young man, and he's probably 15 or 16 by now, I would think, and maybe he's even a rider. But it changed his day, it changed the teacher's world, and I'm quite sure the parents took that and said, "Hey, and who knows, maybe even end up going through your program." But just amazing what you can do with horses, and how therapeutic horses are, to have such a majestic, magnificent, massive animal that loves you and that shows compassion. And that was not I'm not saying that because it's the word, but Sonny did, I mean,
but
he
she did say it.
I did say it. But Sonny showed incredible.
That's one of the best ways you can describe that connection between the horse and the people that they're with.
That Sonny knew that child needed him and needed that connection, and he knew just exactly what to do. And I don't think Sonny always loved kids, but I don't think I ever saw Sonny that still or that the way that he was with that.
Have
that
you
young man.
ever heard about some people
So
believe?
now we're done crying.
Yeah,
Yes.
that some people believe that we are domesticated as humans when we turn about 11 or 12, because that's when we're usually told you can't do that, you can't do that, and so kids always connect with horses at a higher level because of that. They're not domesticated. They're still in that wild state of, oh, I can feel your energy and you can feel me, kind of thing. So
Yeah, I think that's
why I've always been a kid my whole life.
Yes. I refused to grow up. But
Peter Pan.
what we're gonna